There's the young guy who went to work in the oil fields in Alaska, in the middle of nowhere. After a few months of only guys around and not a single woman to be found for miles, the guy goes to his boss and asks, "How do you guys deal with not having a woman to have sex with for months on end?" The boss looks around, leans in, and says, "Well, see that old barrel behind the equipment shed?" The guy says, "Yeah." The boss says, "Every Friday we use that." The young guy is shocked, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So Friday rolls around, he goes behind the shed, and sure enough, there's the barrel. He drops his pants and goes for it. Afterwards, he stumbles out, sweaty and satisfied, and says to the boss, "Man, that was weird, but I feel better. Same time next week." The boss replies, "Sure, but not Friday. That's your turn in the barrel." There was a man named Larry who lived in a small town prone to floods. One year, the rains came hard and fast, and the river rose higher than it ever had before. The entire neighborhood was being evacuated, but Larry stayed put, standing on his porch as water crept up the steps. A neighbor paddled by in a canoe and shouted, "Larry, hop in. It's getting bad." Larry waved him off. "No thanks. God will save me." A few hours later, the water had risen to the second story. Larry was now on the roof, shivering in the rain. A rescue boat came by. "Climb aboard," the rescue worker yelled. "This is your last chance." But Larry just smiled and shook his head. "No need. God will save me." Finally, the floodwaters engulfed the house. Larry clung to the chimney when a helicopter appeared overhead. A rope ladder dropped. "This is it," the pilot shouted. "Grab on." Still, Larry refused. "God will save me." Well, Larry drowned. In heaven, he marched straight up to God and demanded answers. "Why didn't you save me?" God blinked and said, "Larry, I sent you a canoe, a boat, and a helicopter. What more did you want? A calendar invite." Three guys show up at the gates of heaven. Peter asks the first guy, "How'd you die?" The guy says, "Man, it is terrible. I got off work early to try and catch my wife cheating on me, as I'd expected she was. Well, I got home to my 14th floor apartment and found my wife naked, wet, and in bed. Obviously, she had just been having sex. So I searched all over my apartment and couldn't find anyone. I go out for a smoke on the balcony and see a naked man hanging by his fingertips. In a rage, I grabbed a hammer and smashed his fingers. He fell but landed in some bushes, so I pushed the fridge off the edge and crushed him. Then I had a heart attack and died. St. Peter goes, "Yikes." He turns to the second guy. I was just washing windows when some maniac attacked me with a hammer and dropped a fridge on me." Then the third guy walks up. St. Peter asks, "And you?" He goes, "You're not going to believe this. I was naked, hiding in a fridge." The woman goes into a funeral home to make arrangements for her husband's funeral. She tells the director that she wants her husband to be buried in a dark suit. The next day, she comes back to check on things, and there her husband is in the casket, wearing the most elegant, perfectly tailored dark navy blue suit. She says, "Wow, that looks amazing. How did you find one that fit him so well?" The funeral director smiles and says, "Oh, it was no problem. Another gentleman was brought in yesterday, about the same size, and he was wearing a black suit. So I asked his wife if she'd mind if he were buried in a navy one instead." The woman blinks. "Wait, so you switched the suits?" He replies, "No, ma'am. I switched the heads." Two scouts camping in their backyard wanted to know the time, so they started singing at the top of their lungs. Then one of their neighbors threw open his window and yelled, "Cut the noise." Don't you know it's 3 o'clock in the morning?